Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. It's always so tough when the kid has better manners than his parents, but has to pay the price. Sometimes, spiritually developed children are given to parents for their own spiritual development. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Swim no more. This was some years back, but I was lifeguarding and this big group of people came in. Now, the main people of this story were guests of the people who lived in the neighborhood. Now, the boy, aged 6 at the time, was very excited to be at the pool. Kids forget things in their excitement, especially at that age. Their attention span just isn't that long, so he started running, which is a big no-no. I get his attention and tell him, "Don't run, okay, sweetie? I know you're excited, but you gotta walk." He smiles, apologized, and went about his way, walking. About 10 minutes later, he ran again, so I get his attention, and mind you, the mother's paying absolutely zero attention to this kid, and give him a second warning. "Remember, you gotta walk, baby, okay? If I have to remind you again, I'll have to have you sit out for a few minutes, okay?" He nodded. "I'm really sorry, I forgot," and he looked genuinely apologetic. "It's okay, just try and remember, all right?" "Okay, I'm sorry." And he went about his way. Same thing happened about 10 minutes later, so he ran again. So I go over to him and say, "All right, darling, this is the third time I'm having to say something, so I need you to come sit down over here in the shade next to my stand." This was in Houston, y'all, so it was between 105 and 115, so I always had the kids sit in the shade of the guard umbrella. This little boy didn't argue once. He just said, "Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot again." And he sat down. Now, I always sat the little ones out for as many minutes as they were old. As I said before, their attention span isn't that long, and they literally will forget why they're in trouble. So this kid's timeout was nearly over, 6 minutes, when entitled mom comes storming over to me demanding why her son was sitting out. I calmly explained the situation and explained that it was the lifeguards company policy, I don't want to put the name of that company here, to sit kids out for a few minutes when told something 3 times. Entitled mom goes off, demanding to speak to a supervisor. I told her I was the supervisor, which pissed her off even more, then demanded I call my boss, so I did. My boss and the president of the HOA come to the pool, and this lady was going off at all 3 of us before the HOA pres went into a private meeting room. By the time they came back out, it had been over an hour. That little boy never moved from that spot the whole time. So the entitled mom and the people that brought them were banned for life from the pool over a 6-minute timeout. As they left, I told the boy, "I'm sorry, love." He looked at me sadly and nodded as if this behavior was so common from this woman, he wasn't even surprised. I felt so bad for this kid. And our second story. Dump out my laundry? Okay. This happened in the early 90s. I was living in my first apartment and working a crummy fast food job. One Monday, I realized I forgot to wash any of my uniforms over the weekend with just enough time to get it done before I had to leave for my shift. The laundry room was deserted and most of the machines were available because my shift started at 1 p.m. It was a trashy complex, so ordinarily I stayed and watched my clothes, but I figured no one would bother to steal KFC uniforms, so I walked to my unit to get a book. When I got back 5 minutes later, someone had pulled all my wet uniforms out of the washing machine and dumped them on the disgusting floor, then put a load of men's hospital scrubs in instead, stealing my 75 cents in soap. My first impulse was to reverse what the jackass did and confront him, but there was no guarantee he'd return before I had to leave for work. Instead, I wrung out my soapy laundry and carted it back home while fuming. I rinsed out a single shirt and a pair of pants, then headed back to the laundry room to dry them, and brought along a special gift for hospital douche. I haven't seen anyone wearing white scrubs for a long time, but this was nearly 30 years ago, and that's what color HDs were. One of my store's managers gave the crew dollar store Christmas stockings with candy in them the previous year, and I still had mine in a drawer. They were incredibly cheaply made and such an incandescently loud red they almost glowed. One of my coworkers' boyfriend cluelessly tossed her stocking into a load of socks, turning the whole lot bright pink. Her joke at the time was that all his socks in the load became her socks because he refused to wear them anymore. I think everyone figured out exactly what I did with that stocking. A single polyester fast food uniform dries very quickly, so I already had it out and in the garbage bag before the wash cycle hit spin. I sat reading my book while praying to the sky HD would arrive before I had to leave, which he did shortly after the cycle ended. I pretended to read as he opened the lid and started cursing while removing pink garment after pink garment from the machine. Halfway through unloading, he got my attention and asked if I'd seen anyone around that machine. I told him I hadn't, but that I'd only been there a few minutes. I asked him why. Was something wrong? He pointed to the Barbie pile and said, "This." I asked him what was wrong with his wife's clothes, and he said no, they were his. I affected being slightly taken aback and asked why he went with that color, to which he angrily replied that he hadn't, and they were white. Having a friendly person innocently rubbing his situation in was making him madder by the second, so I told him there might have been something red left at the bottom of the machine by the last user and offered sympathy. He grunted in reply and returned to pulling scrubs out. A couple seconds later, he found the now faded and blotchy stocking and completely blew his stack. He yelled, "No! I know what effing happened!" and launched into a raging tirade about what he was going to do to that effing effer. I expressed dismay at it being deliberate sabotage and left him furiously throwing scrubs into a dryer while I walked out shaking my head that someone could do something so low. The complex had a laundry room for each cluster of buildings, and my place was equidistant from two of them. I switched rooms and never saw the guy again, which is a shame because I'd have killed to see him walking or driving around in one of his beautiful new outfits. Years later, somebody told me he screwed himself by drying the scrubs immediately instead of rewashing them in cold water because a rewash would have faded them to a more gender-neutral salmon color. I don't know if that's true, but I hope it is, and that his wife or girlfriend called him an idiot later for unnecessarily locking the Barbie in. Dude got what he deserved, and I commend your pro level of coolness in the moment. Excellent work. And our last story. I deserve a handicap spot. I'm pregnant. No, ma'am, you don't. I, female, 30 years old, have an autoimmune arthritis condition. I walk with a cane. On my bad days, I can barely walk at all. I have a handicap placard for those days. I had to go grocery shopping a while ago, and I was in no condition to be walking a long ways. Not a code red pain day, but definitely up there. If I hadn't been completely out of a few major necessities, I wouldn't have been out at all. When I got there, all the handicap spots were full, but I saw an older gentleman loading his trunk, and I knew that spot would soon be available. So I pulled up and put on my blinkers and waited. As soon as he was gone, I pulled into the spot, threw up my blue placard, and began hauling myself out of the car. I'm just about ready to close the door when I hear, "Excuse me." I look over and see a teal SUV pull up behind me. There's this woman in the driver's seat yelling out the open passenger window at me. EM, "You just took my spot." Me, "What? I was waiting behind the other guy. I didn't see you." EM, "No, these are handicap spots. They're only for handicapped people." I'm literally leaning against my car, cane in hand. I hold up the cane. "I am handicapped, ma'am. I have a permit." EM scoffs and pulled away. I decided to just forget about her and begin my hobble walk into the store. I got even more frustrated when I saw there were no electric carts available, so I was forced to grab one of the smaller trolleys and walk. Since I have a hard time pushing a cart one-handed and the cart offers some support, I put my cane inside the cart. I was only as far as the produce section when I hear a familiar voice, "Hey, you!" It's the EM. She's pushing one of those big carts that look like cars for the kids. She had an infant and a toddler strapped into the front of the cart, another kid, 2 years old, standing, bouncing in the cart, and yet another child holding her hand walking beside her. He looked 5-ish. I'm bad at telling ages. She's also very pregnant. She stalks up to me with this pissed off expression, You need to learn to be more respectful. I was waiting for that parking spot and you stole it. She's talking/yelling over her kids who are all fussing loudly. Me. Lady, I didn't see you waiting for that spot. If you were, I apologize. EM. I was waiting for it. I needed a spot close to the entrance. Because of you, I had to park all the way towards the back. Me. Well, I said I was sorry. I look over her and her brood real quick. Besides, that was a handicap spot. You can only park there with a permit. Or one of your kids handicapped? EM. No, the spot was for me. I'm pregnant. Me. Lady, you can't use a disabled parking just because you're pregnant. Not unless you have some complications that affect your mobility. EM. No, you can use them if you're pregnant too. I always use them. Me. I don't think that's how it's supposed to work, ma'am. You're lucky you haven't gotten a ticket for not having a permit displayed. EM huffs. Well, you shouldn't be using it. You're not pregnant and you clearly don't have kids. Me. Nope, I'm not pregnant, but I am disabled. This whole conversation I've been leaning on my cart for support. I pull my cane out for her to see. I can barely walk 10 feet without pain. That's why I have a handicap permit. EM. That's no excuse. You can't be in that much pain. I've been up all night with a colicky baby and couldn't keep anything down because of morning sickness. I'm exhausted. My feet are killing me. You don't know what it's like wrangling 4 kids while pregnant. I clearly needed that spot more than you did. I'm more than done with this whole argument at this point. Look, lady, I'm in pain, I'm tired, and I want to finish my shopping so I can go home and try to work up the will to make dinner tonight. I didn't see you waiting for the damn parking spot, and you shouldn't be using it without a permit anyway. Good day. I tried walking away. EM, you selfish brat! You don't know what tired is. I'm going to report you to store security. I'll get them to tow your car. Me, lady, call security if you want. I'm allowed to park there. I didn't choose to become disabled, but you chose to have kids. It's not my fault you're tired and run down and can't be bothered to walk the extra 200 feet to the door. You deal with your life, I'll deal with mine. I hobbled off to try to finish my shopping, ignoring her parting comments. That fight gave me just enough adrenaline to get through my trip without falling apart. I had an assistant help load my vehicle, which was undisturbed where I'd parked it, and I was still pissed when I got home. But it was nothing a long soak in the tub couldn't fix. I still hope she gets ticketed for parking in the handicap spots, but as long as I never see her again, I'll be happy. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.